Hey everybody, it's Marlon. Welcome to the channel, Marlon's 420. This afternoon I was wanting to talk about this case that's going on in New York City that everybody's talking about and focusing on. There's a gentleman up there by the name of Daniel Penny who is on charge for manslaughter. Excuse me, on trial for manslaughter. Set the table real quick. Back in May 2023, Daniel Penny was going about his business in New York. He wound up on the subway and he came into contact with an individual named Jordan Neely. Now, Jordan was on the subway. He was making trouble for other people. He was threatening people. He was telling people, I'm going to kill you. He was being loud, obnoxious, threatening. And so Daniel, being a former Marine who served our country, stepped in and intervened, putting himself between Jordan and those who he was berating. There was a scuffle, fight, whatever you want to call it, and Jordan wound up in a headlock. Daniel has Jordan in a chokehold, restraining him so that he cannot hurt Daniel or anyone else around him. Now, at some point, Jordan winds up dying. They wind up charging Daniel with manslaughter, and they have been dealing with this now ever since. And we're bringing it up today because they were at trial today, waiting on a jury to deliver their verdict. And apparently the jury has been deliberating for 2 or 3 days now, which to me I don't understand, because it should be a very straightforward type of case of self-defense. In the state of Alabama, where I live, it would be very clear cut. But they're in New York, so their politics and ideology and view of self-defense is not slightly different, very different. Okay? We go back to Trayvon Martin and stand your ground laws and all that. In the state of Alabama, we have that. I am not obligated to retreat from an attack if I can do so. In the state of New York, if someone attacks you and you can realistically retreat out of the situation, and you do not, and you wind up killing the person attacking you, from their point of view, you are then guilty of manslaughter or murder. Now, it is a completely warped fucking way of looking at the law in the world, absolutely, but that's their view, okay? Now, also, I just want to set a few things before I get to my point. Manslaughter is a charge that they bring when you have killed someone, but you did not intend to kill them. But there was usually some sort, and for this particular charge of manslaughter, there was some sort of altercation, fight, whatever, going on already. Right? That's usually the case. Now, there's other circumstances where you get like vehicular manslaughter, DUI, vehicular manslaughter, those types of things. But anyways, I'm not going to go there. So that's what he was charged with. They brought it to a jury, and just like everywhere else in the United States of America, my friends, you boil it down to that jury room, and reality is those 6, 12, 18 people in whatever jury room you're in, they're going to be as divided as the general public out here. And that is exactly what we're seeing. We don't know exactly what the jury's saying to each other. We don't know what they're arguing about back there. We don't know what they're thinking. But I would bet my left or right, swapped on the right pinky, that what is happening is the same thing that's happening on X. You have the liberal leftist elite who see this man, they see that he killed a younger black man, and I didn't mention earlier, Jordan was African American. I didn't mention it because I didn't think about it until just now when I'm thinking about the liberals' point of view. To me and to Daniel, it wouldn't have mattered. But to them, it's all that matters. So they have a white man who's killed a black man, and in their point of view, that white male man did not have the right to step in, intervene, and protect those other people from this person. Now, there's all kinds of arguments that they use, and I'm not going into those either. That's not the point of this video. And then on the right, you have all the people who are looking at it from a, I'm not going to say dispassionate, they are just as impassioned as the liberals about this in the jury, I'm sure. But they are looking at it from a more real human perspective that's not colored by color ideology. So that's you literally have a breakdown in the jury of right and left, probably, just like in the real world. Now, what I never understood thinking about this case and first reading about it until I started getting the feel for it on X and everything is why the jury was taking so long. In my experience and opinion, this is a straightforward case of what should be jury nullification. That should be what's happening now. And it is, it's just not all of them. Now you say, Marlon, what is jury nullification? Some of you may wonder. Thomas Jefferson talked about the idea of jury nullification all the way back to the founding fathers. He basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, man has never come up with a more effective method of what, I'm trying to think of the words he used. Man has never come up with a more effective method of fighting against government overreach, regulation, law, or whatever into their lives than the act of a jury nullification. In plain, simple terms, it's basically the people refusing to apply the law as the government wants it applied. So the government comes along and says, Jim Bob is not allowed to dig that ditch anywhere in that area where Jim Bob is. Jim Bob digs that ditch anyways. The police arrest him for it, charge him for digging the ditch, and they bring him to trial. The jury, being the reasonable, normal, freedom-loving Americans that they are, hear that he broke a law digging a ditch. Now, did he actually break the law? Yes. But they're going to go back into that jury room and they're going to come up and they're going to say, I'm not going to find this man guilty because I don't believe that he committed a crime. There's a very different things. Breaking the law and committing a crime against society are very different things, ladies and gentlemen. Very different. So this jury is going to say, You know, Jim Bob did not commit, a crime against society. He dug a hole on his property. Now, just because you have a law saying that that's illegal, we don't care. We're not going to enforce it. That is jury nullification, and it is despised amongst both district attorneys and judges. Sorry, my lisp is kicking in a little bit. It is despised amongst both district attorneys and judges. They hate it. There have been more than a few activists who have been found in contempt of court just by handing out pamphlets on jury nullification outside of a courthouse. It is the bane of their existence. They hate it. They look at the law and, from their point of view, their importance depends on the law. So when a jury and civilians and citizens who are not educated in jurisprudence the way this individual is, comes along and says, we don't care about your jurisprudence. The law you want us to enforce is prima facie bullshit. How's that for some jurisprudence words for you? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my lisp is kicking in. I have jaw issues, and most of the time I wear a mouthpiece, and I obviously cannot filming these videos, so I apologize. Anyways, so that's all jury nullification is, and that is how and why, in my opinion, Daniel is going to eventually walk free. Now, today, tonight, whatever you want to call it, the judge and the district attorney, that's another thing. This judge and district attorney both are problem children. They are simpatico in ways that should not be occurring in a courtroom for sure between DA and judge. But the judge agreed to drop the charge of manslaughter against Daniel today because the district attorney realized finally she's not going to get that conviction. The jury came back, they told the judge, we are split and none of us are moving. And that's why I know it is political now. Now, this is good for Daniel in some ways. His attorney was wanting to try and force the jury to go back into deliberations again to come back with the not guilty verdict. So that's because what they've done now is, even though they've dropped the manslaughter charge, the judge has allowed the lesser charge of negligent homicide to be considered. Now, you remember earlier when I said most of the time, manslaughter charges are going to be incumbent or dependent on some sort of physicality taking place already. Correct? I mean, that's usually the case. But in this particular instance, they're going down even further than that to negligent homicide. That is, you're just doing something really stupid that you shouldn't have been doing, that you knew may cause harm to either you or other individuals, and you did it anyways. And somebody got killed in the process. That is negligent homicide. I don't know what the penalty carries for that conviction up in the state of New York. I do know that it would be a massive travesty and miscarriage of justice if that were applied. So that's what's happening. Now I want to talk about jury nullification just for a second, a little bit more. When I started talking about this on X today, I had too many people asking me what this was. Too many people on our side, the conservative side, the MAGA side, Trump's side, did not know or understand what jury nullification was. And I think that that is because for a long time, the Democrat and liberals and elites sort of claimed that for themselves. This was really starting to gain traction and popularity as an idea again when George Bush was in office. And liberals are running around telling everybody, you know, it it really got going because Bush was charging a lot of people, ironically, with violating marijuana laws. And so nobody wanted to convict these people for having weed. So the liberal idea was, okay, let's educate everyone about jury nullification. And it worked. Jury nullification is one of the main things that pushed the momentum of marijuana legalization and decriminalization forward so quickly. Because district attorneys, cops, etc., stopped bringing the cases because they could not get convictions most of the time. So that's all I'm trying to get across is I want more people aware of what this is and how it can be used. It is one of, well, Thomas Jefferson said, the most critical asset that we can use in our fight against the government's overreach. He said that, basically you have a series of options to deny the government use of power that it's claiming. One of the second to last is jury nullification. And obviously, if a government does not recognize the citizens' will at that point and goes over them and still chooses to enforce and punish over whatever this law was, then, as Jefferson said, it's time for war. And of course it is. I mean, what other option are you left with at that point when your enemy has gone that far? So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we sit right now as the sun goes down on whatever today is in December. I'm praying for Daniel and I'm hoping all this works out for him. I'm pretty sure that what's going to happen is the jury's either going to come back and say, no, we're not going to find him guilty on this lesser charge, or a not guilty verdict on the lesser charge. But I don't think that's the case. I think the liberal side will dig in even deeper and say, if y'all wouldn't let us convict him of manslaughter, you at least have to let us convict him of negligent homicide. He killed this boy, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't a boy. And then the other side's going to dig in too. So what I really think is actually going to happen is eventually, after a year, tons of wasted time, money, who knows how much effort and time the district attorney's office and law enforcement put into this, but after all of that, impaneling a jury and wasting the citizens' time, it's most likely going to come down to a mistrial. As anticlimactic as you can get, some people would say. But it'll most likely come down to a mistrial because it's going to be extremely divided. And that's it. So, anyways, we'll see. I'm going to release this before the verdict comes out, so we'll know afterwards. Let me know what y'all are thinking. Let me know if you saw any of this today. If you're on X, come on and hit me up at Marlins420 at Brando35242. Marlins420. Come find me. But yeah, if you're on X, come get at me. Let me know what you thought. If you've seen any of this with Daniel, I know probably everybody has heard at least a little bit of it if we pay attention to the news at this point. If you don't mind, hit that like button and go down there into the comments. Let me know what you think, and go back up top and hit that subscribe button. Excuse me. I apologize. My throat and my face are starting to mess with me a little bit. I really appreciate all y'all. I appreciate all the new subs. And we'll be back here real soon. Marlon out.